What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy. And I know that all of you are wondering what the situation, what the status is of the play swing set that I've been putting together for my son. I said in my last video here on the channel, which was on Saturday, May the 4th. May the 4th be with you, with you. I said that I was going to start putting it together. Now, I understand that a lot of you have done this before, and a lot of you knew that it was going to take a while. I do want to shout out my dad, Grandpa, who's been helping me. We started this on Saturday, May the 4th. Today is Tuesday, May the 7th, as I put the video together, and we're still not done. You were all right. It is just, why does this have to be like this? I do not understand the process of all of this, but even though I've said this for the last couple of days to my dad, I think today's the day. I think today, when I'm done recording this video and done with my stuff, done with my work, I think today is the day. But again, I've said that and been burned in the past. But thank you to those of you who reached out with words of optimism and words of encouragement. We have become, in case you are a newer member around here, the most subscribed to individual team channel for NFL teams, obviously, across the SB Nation universe. If you have not subscribed here to the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel, please make sure to do so for all sorts of Dallas Cowboys discussion and analysis, and occasionally a peek inside my personal life as it relates to this play swing set that is just the bane of my existence right now. But it is a lot of fun talking Cowboys with all of you. Still in the process of figuring out our podcast future. Appreciate those of you who continue to ask about it. In the meantime, like I said, you can subscribe right here to the channel. We have a lot of fun. If you like what I do, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Threads at RJ Ochoa, or on TikTok at RJ.Ochoa. Today, we're here to talk about the running back room for the Dallas Cowboys. Really not the room, but really kind of how we got to the room. Very interesting article that came out on Tuesday, May the 7th. It's my niece's birthday, so happy birthday to her. May the 7th brought this article from ESPN.com. Let's go ahead and get it on your screen. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler dropped nuggets, intel, whatever you want to call it, regarding every single team following the NFL draft, obviously, which was now 2 weeks ago. Let's kind of skim through this here. The Cowboys are working the fringes on running back, one of several needs, but the lack of a fourth-round pick hurt their chances. The number 87 pick was a spot where they could have chosen a back, but the Cowboys felt Notre Dame linebacker Marist Liufau not only addressed another major need, but provided the toughness to fit within Mike Zimmer's defense. All right, quick break here. So if we look at the entire draft class that the Dallas Cowboys had, for the most part, every pick achieved serious and enormous value. Every pick, kind of relative to the consensus big board or Dane Brugler's board, or whatever the case may be, was legitimate value obtained. That is a good thing. The only one that kind of zigged where those zagged was 87 overall, the Marist Liufau pick. And the reason for this was obvious. I should have seen this more obviously in my face. So I apologize for not leading you down this path in the first place. But the Cowboys did not have a fourth-round draft pick. We knew that. We talked about that a million different times. They traded it to the San Francisco 49ers back in August for Trey Lance. Super not great, but hey, it is what it is. Water under the bridge, as people like to say. Because the Cowboys did not have a fourth-round draft pick, who they took with the 87th overall pick had to be somebody that they were in love, like capital Love, like the song that they play in The Parent Trap. L for the way you look at me. O for the only one I see. V is very, very extraordinary. See, I've seen that movie a million times. Anyway, it had to be somebody they were in love with, because it had to be somebody who they were confident would not make it all the way to pick 174, which was their next pick in the draft, their first pick in the 5th round. And because of that, it had to be a bit of a reach. It had to be somebody that bucked, kind of acquiring or accruing value like the way all of their other draft selections did. So that being the case, Marist Liufau was somebody who they clearly felt like they could not live without. I think it's important to note, though, that it was Marist Liufau and Zeke Elliott that helped the Cowboys ultimately make this decision. Let's get back to the article at hand from Jeremy Fowler. Let's look at this here. What is going on? Goodness gracious, my dogs are barking. I was making sure nothing crazy was happening. All right, Dallas had shown enough pre-draft love to Marshawn Lloyd that the USC tailback who went to the Green Bay Packers at number 87 overall thought the Cowboys would be one of the possible teams to draft him. For what it's worth, again, Marshawn Lloyd went one pick after the Cowboys took Marist Liufau in the 3rd round on Friday night. The Cowboys also, Jeremy Fowler continues, really like Tennessee running back Jalen Wright, who went 120 overall to the Miami Dolphins. If the Cowboys had a 4th round selection and Wright were still available, chances are they would have jumped on him. Again, I think it's important to note the Zeke Elliott part of all of this. Now, before we get into all of this, I was on Kay Adams' show. Kay Adams, good friend of mine, good friend of Blogging the Boys. I was on her show on Monday, and she asked me about the Zeke Elliott reunion, et cetera, what the vibes were relative to the Cowboys fan base, and here's what I had to say. It does feel a little bit like, hey, we're bringing Boy Meets World back, but Corey and Topanga are the parents, and Mr. Feeney's still around. It feels like a weird reunion in that way. And so I do think some people are jaded about the Cowboys, and some people are still really nostalgic, and a lot of people are super excited. But the most predictable thing ever would be that he would change jersey numbers, and the Cowboys would have an opportunity to sell a whole bunch of Zeke Elliott 15s now that that's what he's going to be wearing. It's very chalk for the Dallas Cowboys, and I think people are just kind of not rolling their eyes at that, but people accept what this franchise is and what it offers. And that is a different and independent thing than that Zeke really and legitimately can't contribute to somebody this year. Now, I think what I said happens to be a great point, but I'm clearly very biased towards myself. That being said, let's think about this. The Zeke Elliott move, as I mentioned, in a vacuum makes total and complete sense. He is a player who can help a team in 2024. We've got that. The narrative of it all, obviously, leads to some joking and some snickering because it's the Cowboys and the number 15 in the jerseys and all that stuff. That's just kind of the Cowboys' way when it comes to certain things. But if we look at the situation here, and this is an article that I wrote at blogontheboys.com, it's not out quite yet. So that's why you're seeing the preview version of this. This is how the sausage gets made, so to speak. These are all the running backs taken on your screen between, or I should say, after the Cowboys took Marist Liufau. Obviously, they took him at 87 overall, and before they returned to the clock at 174 overall. So the Cowboys picks border what you're looking at here. They were at 87 overall and 174 overall. These are all the running backs taken. So 88 overall, we talked about this, Marshawn Lloyd at the Packers, 120, Jalen Wright at the Miami Dolphins, which is why, as Jeremy Fowler notes, had the Cowboys had that 124th overall pick in their pocket, in their hand, as opposed to belonging to the 49ers, they would have potentially been in a position to take one of them, even though they didn't make it. That was kind of the sweet spot, that 124 spot, because look at all the running backs who were on the board. Bucky Irving went to the Bucs, Will Shipley to the Eagles, Ray Davis to the Bills, Isaac Orlando to the 49ers themselves, Braylon Allen to the Jets. We talked a lot about him. Audric Esteen to the Broncos, Rasheen Ali to the Ravens, Tyron Tracy to the New York Giants, Keelan Robinson to the Jaguars, and of course Isaiah Davis to the New York Jets. One pick before the Cowboys ultimately made their next selection, Kalen Carson, the cornerback out of Wake Forest. And so I do believe that the Cowboys were planning on bringing Zeke Elliott back before the draft is over. And if you don't believe that, well, hey, I've got some beachfront property in the middle of nowhere to sell to you, all right? And I don't say this to criticize them, all right? I know that we all have some thoughts on the Cowboys and we all have opinions on things and we would like to see them do some things differently, but if you strip away the Boy Meets Worldness of it all that I said to Kay, if you strip away the fun that is able to be had at the Cowboys' expense by bringing Zeke Elliott back, by doing the super predictable thing, I'm okay with this. Now, a lot of this depends on Marist Liufau panning out, right, and becoming a legitimate player for them. And they obviously needed some linebacker depth, but they do seem to have played the running back thing right. I don't know of another player, of a player who we just showed you on the screen there. I don't know of a running back that would have been worth it to me. And by worth it, I mean, I don't know if there's a running back I would have preferred over Marist Liufau, even though I wasn't high on him personally, and Zeke Elliott. I think the combination of them makes the direction the Cowboys went worth it, especially if they feel like they absolutely had to have Marist Liufau. If that winds up working, then they ultimately bought themselves some time by bringing Zeke back, obviously, for 2024, as opposed to taking a running back just to take one. Now, like all of you, I believed and still believe that the Cowboys should have drafted a running back, but I applaud them and commend them, something that we have not been able to do a lot this offseason, for not reaching in the name of doing that. So good for them, ultimately. The process of how we got here was a little bit silly and didn't have to be this exact same way. I think that's generally the case for the Cowboys, but I do think they ultimately did the right thing. Now, is the running back room in some weird shape and in a place that I would love to see them still improve it? Absolutely. But I do think that they made the right kind of lemonade with the lemons that they were handed, if that makes sense. They could have taken this thing a number of different directions. And the Marist Liufau pick, I know we keep talking about that, obviously. It is a unique thing because it was a pivot point for them. They decided clearly in that moment, again, I believe the Cowboys probably knew that they were bringing Zeke back even before the draft began, but that was the moment that they cemented it because they had to have known that without the 4th-round draft pick, they were not going to be able. We showed all those names, obviously. There was no way that they were going to have a chance at somebody legitimate when they came back on the clock at 174. So I'm okay with the process in that particular sense. But sometimes it would just be nice if the Cowboys did things a certain way instead. If you haven't yet, once again, please consider subscribing here to the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. I talk about the Dallas Cowboys all the time here on YouTube, of course, at blogontheboys.com, where you can read that article that I showed you a preview of, probably coming out sometime, I'm going to guess, on Wednesday morning. Haven't taken a look at things yet. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Threads at RJ Ochoa. I haven't made this joke in a while. Somebody has that username on TikTok, so I had to go with RJ.Ochoa on that particular platform, and it really bothers me. So whoever you are that took it, I'm very upset. Wish me luck as my dad and I continue on our 4th day putting together this play swing set. Hopefully today is the day. I will be sure to update you in my next video here on the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel, which will be here sooner than you think. I'll put the link, by the way, to my appearance on Kay Adams' show in the description down below. Thank you to her for having us. Thank you to her for always shining a light and shining some attention on what I do and what Blog on the Boys does. She's a good friend of ours. And thank you to you, whoever you are, for watching this, wherever you are, however you are. I hope that whatever you do next is wonderful. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have something delicious to eat. I hope you have something cooling and refreshing to drink. And I hope that the next episode of television you watch just captivates you and makes you say, wow, I'm glad I gave this some of my time. I hope you're saying that about these videos. Thanks so much for hanging out, everybody. Like I said, my name is RJ Ochoa. You know where to find me, and we will see you next time.